Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gamer Guild doing the Around the Table again, where we're bringing in other content creators from Marvel Crisis Protocol to discuss just various aspects of the game. And this is one that I've been wanting to do for a little bit, but then because of technology and other things, it didn't quite happen when I wanted it to. But now we do get to discuss terrain, and specifically a terrain in a post-Magneto world, and making sure that you're still setting up your tables fairly for both players and not necessarily giving one player a disadvantage or advantage. And to discuss this, we have Adam from Blackfire Productions, who has set up so much terrain in his life with his weekly battle reports. We then also have Ryan from Coaxium Gaming, and he's been doing plenty of awesome things on his blog, a lot of roster construction, and then Sploosh from the Danger Room podcast. So we've got a wonderful crew to discuss some of the balance aspects, some of the fun aspects, and stuff like that. So getting right into it, Adam, what do you keep in mind when you are setting up terrain? Do you have like a checklist or any pattern you're trying to follow for your battle reports?
I don't have a checklist per se or really a pattern. I basically come at it with, okay, I think of what's the setting that I want to play in first off. What's the setting that my opponent and I want to play in, and we can come to an agreement on. And so once we have that setting, I pull out like all the stuff that I have off my walls and throw it on the board in a big pile, and we just start going to town. And as we start placing things, I start asking, okay, are you okay with this here? And I'm trying to keep in my head objective wise and everything else, like where objectives could be, as we're setting this up. And that's a question that I'll ask my opponent, like, are you okay with an objective up on a building, or do you want it on the ground level? You know what I mean? And so like, that's the type of thing that I'm doing. Like I take more of a thematic approach, just because I find that when you're doing battle reports or even playing a game, you have your opponent's force, your force or team, squad, and then the board, and all of it comes together to make a story, right? And so again, I just look at it, like I said, does it tell that story? Does it look good for battle reports, obviously? And I don't try to make it too symmetrical. And so it's like, it doesn't have to be perfectly balanced, but as long as it's still okay by both of us. I'm not setting it up in an advantageous positioning for myself or whatever. So we both have to sort of approve it, right? So we come at it in sort of that angle. Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't have a set pattern. It's just sort of winging it. It's the best way I can put it.
No, and something I really like that you mentioned there is that you're setting up terrain before objectives are picked and trying to keep that in mind. I just played a game earlier today, actually, where I kind of felt bad because we ended up doing the Demons Downtown, which is that straight line up the middle, and there was a giant size 4 terrain piece on my opponent's side of that middle objective. So I was easily able to go claim the objective without a lot of fear.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
But it's like I said, it's one of those things that you try to agree and have that open conversation dialogue with your opponent. I find, at least when I'm doing it, and make sure that they sort of are okay with the setup. So.
All right, Sploosh, same question to you. And I know Adam kind of coming from a little bit more of a casual, you may be coming from a little bit more competitive. Do you have a system and it's a little bit less winging it?
Yeah. Well, for real life games, I own the mat that has like all the objectives marked, and it marks for all 4 sides. So no matter which way you flip the board, it's correct. And I try, at least in the beginning, I try not to put stuff on the objective marked spots without knowing what objectives will be played. I even if I have an idea, I won't even try to consider it. I'll try to not think about that. I'll just try to avoid those markings. I will say I'm going to cheat a little bit and say that I do play online a lot, and Pat Dunford, who's quite a good player, has made a lot of maps that get a lot of praise. And I've played all his maps, and I like pretty much all of them. So I kind of peeked at him a little bit ago and just stared at him to see if I could see anything that was consistent with them, that maybe could articulate like more of a competitive mindset. And out of like 7 maps, he only had one piece of terrain in the middle that interfered with the very middle, like gamma kind of location. And it was a size 4, but the way he kind of lined it up, it was kind of even for both sides, where you could like touch it equidistant, and it just wasn't really like an edge.
Yeah.
I would say just the fact he only did that once is consistent with probably a lot of competitive mindset about probably try not to mess too much with the middle. And having a size 4 is a divisive decision, because if someone's bringing like Thor or Angela or a couple other kind of like heavy hitters, there's Dwarf. That can be like a brutal, devastating hit. It's like 5 damage. Here you go, have this. It is actually kind of fun when no one has one of those characters, because then it just becomes kind of a wall, and it makes for interesting gameplay. But most of the time, size 4 tends to be like 1 or 2 pieces, and it usually tends to be. I'll just say the way I picture the board is, people can probably picture the gamma setup, which is what map E, I believe. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, E. And then there's the meteors, which I'm not sure what that one's called. I think maybe C, but it's basically gamma just the other direction.
Yeah.
I think in real life, people tend to never actually play sideways. I don't know about you guys, but probably the percentage of actually playing sideways has got to be what, like 1%. Most people are like, I'll be on this side, you be on that side, or I'll switch with you. That's right. But
right.
I still like to think of it as keeping lanes. So I'm not saying don't block the like gamma or meteor setup, but keep it somewhat open. And then size 2 probably doesn't count, because like most characters can walk over that without being, slowed down. So I'll keep a little bit of like a lane there, and it's maybe okay to put like a size 3, but I'd probably avoid any kind of size 4 in that like frost formation, right? And then if you can think of it as like a box, you've got like the cosmic cubes, which is, what's that one? That one's map F. And then you've got map B, which is basically the same thing. You've got sort of that
the center one, yeah.
Yeah, you got sort of that. It's like not quite a cube. It's actually like a rectangle, but sort of that box formation. Just out of pure curiosity, I went to all 7 of Pat's maps, and I noticed he created like this kind of like the Confederate flag system, where like it's like a box with like the cross in the middle of it, and he mostly kept it open. I mean, obviously every map can't keep that a perfect open, right? Yeah. But I found that kind of fascinating, because I never would have expected that. The maps don't feel like they play that way, but I feel like he creates like these lanes a little bit so that you can kind of cross, but obviously with a little bit of obstruction. And then if you're going to put size 4 to keep it fair and interesting, in my opinion, I've always felt this way, put the size 4s leaning on like the pointy ends of the cube, like, so, and maybe favor like 1 on each side, or maybe just 1 on one side. And that way, if somebody is playing against like a Thor or something, they can maybe try to like lean away from the big scary 4 size thing. But at the same time, it's out there, and if someone's playing that big character, they can have like a swingy side, or maybe have a little bit of an edge on one side. And even if you just put 1 on each side, then they can't quite avoid it, but it may be like one's closer to their side and closer to your side. So based on like how aggressive you're going to be, it could be relevant. So what I'm basically saying is you're adding like these cool strategic elements that may or may not be edges, right? And you're not like taking those choices away from people by just saying, I'm not going to play any size 4. I think it is cool for the game to have them. The last things I'll just say is things I notice. Probably don't put too much stuff within the deployment area, but definitely put it around the deployment range 3. So think of it not just one side, but like a full all around, and because it's probably just wasted. And then having stuff on the deployment though, not only is good for Brotherhood, because they can do the like throw then move tricks and gain power, but also I kind of noticed something Pat does that tortures me. Is I tend to be like someone who won't commit completely to something. So if you can picture it, let's say we're playing Infinity or something, don't put your character like right next to the objective, but put them like kind of off in inner. Like, so like say picture like if you from left to right was like a 0% to 100%, I would put my characters at like 25 to 30% in, and then like 75%. Do you get it? So I'm like not committing completely. I've noticed Pat has this habit of putting like massive structures around those like 25 and 75% zones. And I think he does it on purpose to like mess with people like me who like don't want to commit to things. And then so then you're kind of being forced to like go all in on left or go all in on right, and maybe put stuff kind of more middle. And then it also will add to the element of like having a character that flies, or what web crawling characters, because that's usually like one of the biggest interactions is like the ability to kind of swing left and right. And if you're playing like web warriors, you can like take advantage of having that like sort of midline blocking stuff. So strategically interesting to have things like that. And I think that about to cover it. I'd put definitely a sprinkling of size 3 kind of around, if you could picture like a circle dead middle of the board, just a circle there. Definitely somewhere in that radius would be a couple 3s, probably like 2 3s, and then just sprinkle 2s and 1s everywhere. And then always follow the rule of don't put things closer than like range 2 of each other.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing is it can be a little bit NP. Some of my worst experiences in this game is when someone gets a little too aggressive with size 5. Play a map where like there's this massive house just in the middle of the board, and it becomes like this weird king of the hill. And then you can't really put things on a size 5 and not just kind of like break the game a little bit. So it gets kind of weird there. So I would try to avoid that, but I do think there is a place for size 5s and big size flat size 4s somewhere, but don't get too crazy with it. I think that can just not be very fun. Like the one guy who brought all the wall crawlers, he's happy, but like everyone else is like, stop pushing me off of this building, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. The
but
team of
I'd say
Asgardians that can all fly around versus those who can't.
maybe one other thing I would add is out of my last little fun survey I did, out of the 7 maps and 28 possible things sitting on like a cosmic cube, only 4 of them did Pat put something where the cube was like on top of it. I kind of found that fascinating. So and like kind of where I started is I tend to not want to like put things on the objective unless it kind of makes sense. Like, for example, for me, I don't own a lot of terrain. I do a lot of the New York City stuff because I'm lazy. I just buy cars and buses and dump trucks or whatever. And then I have like the buildings that came with the core set. I'm totally cool with like using that newsstand as kind of like a platform for an objective, and maybe leave a little bit to the edge so people don't like have to climb on it. So I think that's cool, but don't like go nuts with it, you know? Let the tokens sit on their own flat. But
yeah, you don't want to get them on a wobbly surface as much. Ryan, what about you, man?
So I kind of have a little different view than the other gentleman that we're talking. When I was first learning how to play, one of the guys that taught me out here loved every character that charged. That's all he wanted. So all the tables he'd set up had size 2 and under, and I was getting my butt kicked.
Yeah,
because I was like, man. So I started looking. I'm like, why don't you put any bigger things? Oh, I just don't own them. Yeah, you do. They're in the box right there. Let's put them on the table so you can't charge over it all the time. I agree that you can't necessarily have it in the middle of everything because that's going to be too much of a hindrance. But that's also part of the strategy that you have to be ready for in your list, in your roster. You can't just take for granted that your characters are going to be able to get everywhere. Characters in the game pay a cost for flight for wall crawler, and so they need to get that benefit for that increased cost. Now you can't have size 5 and 4 and 3s just going down the the XY axis of every game, because that's not fun and that's not enjoyable. But I think having a size 4 or 5 in there makes you think about your roster and where you're going to put that character, for like a defender's roster that generally only has Doctor Strange that flies. It makes it more important where you place him and where you get ready for. And like Sploosh was saying, most of the time we don't spin sideways to play, left or right when you're looking at a table when you stand in front of it. but you really have to set it up that way. When we had an event out here for the Vibranium heist, we set it up so that we were fortunate that the game shop had 4x4 tables, and we spread them out so that we could play on either side. And so, because it does matter, and that was a fun casual event, but it's still, it's part of the game and it's part of the strategy to pick the side that you want to play on. And so you have to look at that. And a lot of times I don't. When we're just playing for fun, if you guys, we throw it all out there and just kind of spread it all out. Does this look right? Yeah, it looks fine to me. And then we go. But I think when it gets more competitive, it has a bigger impact, and you have to be able to play around it, either because you have the characters that can avoid it, or you don't, and you just have to know how to deal with that. Criminal Syndicate doesn't have a lot that can deal with terrain, so you just have to be prepared and know what to do. So climbing gear becomes a lot more important team tactic card when you don't have any way to get around that stuff.
And most of them move slow anyway.
Yeah, 100% they do.
So do you have a checklist or a system that you try to use at all when you're setting up these boards, or?
Not really. Usually we end up with like one size 4, 2 or 3 size 3s, and then just a whole bunch of cars and light posts, just because it does make it easier. I agree with what Sploosh was saying. We don't necessarily need to have a whole lot in the deployment zone area. I like it when they're right on the deployment line, because it makes you reconsider how you're going to put who there and things like that. But I think a lot of times a lot of boards were set up that way originally, because there wasn't a Magneto who could get, they could, now when Magneto activates, he has 7 power to start the turn because everybody else has thrown everything there. So I think you have to take that in consideration. But again, I think if you are willing and able to set it up so that you can play on the left or right side instead of, the regular way when it's set up at the game stores or whatever, you can mitigate some of that stuff just by picking the side of the table, or making your opponent play on the side that's less advantageous for them.
I like it. And one thing,
Nate,
oh, go ahead.
I do have a pet peeve. Ryan just reminded me of. Do you ever play a map where someone puts the terrain just a speck outside of range 3? So it's impossible to place your character on the terrain. And then and then you can't really put them above range 3 like normally you would. And it's like, okay, well, I guess this area is just unusable. You know what I'm saying?
You can't quite fit them on top. And
it's not enough
lose
space.
deployment area, because if you want them on the left-hand flank, but that building's in the way or whatever, then that's a pretty aggravating. Usually when we're just playing for fun, though, whenever we're looking at it, and even when we put the tokens down, if it's on a corner of a building, we're like, okay, do we want to move the building, or is it okay there? And then, we just kind of go from there. It's a little more casual. Even we've done a couple of actual, tournament type events. We're doing the same thing. Just kind of, move the stuff around for what feels right, what looks right. You do have to make sure you have room to get, I would say Hulk, but nobody plays Hulk. So Ghost Rider around on his large base in between the pieces without, he has to be able to make it between, 2 buildings or a car and a building or whatever. Now for like the tables that they do for a lot of the battle reports that are just terribly thematic, you can't argue with what just looks cool. If it looks cool, it looks cool, and play on it and enjoy it.
Yeah. My Wakanda board, at the very least, is very not within the rules.
Yeah. That's a really good point about large bases. If you get a little too caught up on things being on the object, you may create these weird situations where certain characters literally can't score it. Because, for example, because Ghost Rider has trouble standing on a car because, his base is too big for the car. Can't. Yeah, so it's well, what if he's standing off this car? Oh no, you put this other light post too close to that car. So now it's literally impossible for me to now stand on it. It's just got to be a little careful of that. That's all.
Well, and it all goes back to making sure everybody's okay with it before the game starts, right? If everybody agrees to it and you have that conversation beforehand, then I think if you've agreed to it, it is what it is, right? 100%, you don't want to make it advantageous to yourself or disadvantageous to your opponent, right? And give them a disadvantage right off the get-go by having that set up. But if you have that conversation, have that dialogue with your opponent, right?
Yep. And definitely to what Sploosh and you were both kind of saying, make sure to just break out that range 2 real quick, and any areas that you think might be a little bit too close and you guys are using those large base characters, the range 2 ruler is a little bit bigger than their base. So that's the whole reason that AMG has recommended that in the first place.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say before we move on to the next question, when I am setting up terrain, whether it's for battle report, casual game, or anything like that, is I divide the table into 4 quarters. And then I'm like, cool, if we're using size 3 pieces of terrain, let's make sure all of those are in different quarters, to try to spread those sizes out evenly, so you don't have like 3 size 3 pieces on one side of the board, and then the other half of the board has all of the size 2 and 1s or something like that.
Yeah, he's good.
But with that, and kind of getting into some of the more thematic aspects, does the theme of a board impact how you would go setting up terrain? And I think we're going to have pretty different answers for this one. Ryan, I'll start with you this time.
So I think you have to look at it in 2 different ways. If you're just getting together to play like we do out here on Tuesday nights, and one of the guys out here has a great Wakandan board and he sets it up, and it doesn't all fit because there's a couple of things that are a little bit. There's a 5 and a 4 and a 4 and a couple of 3. That's just a lot, but it looks cool. And so you bring out Web Warriors and you have fun with those guys for a game. And so for a casual and just having fun and getting into the game, I don't think it matters as much. But for a more competitive game or a tournament, or even for some of the TTS games that are getting going with some of the leagues and stuff, it's much more impactful where the terrain is. And it should be, I think, according to what AMG wants. It's a part of the game. It's significant. Where it is, what size it is, all of those things matter so much in the game that for an actual tournament, I think you have to be a little bit more careful with how you place it. It doesn't have to be equal on every side. I think ideally it is, but then ideally, if you're doing that, there's no advantage. All the advantage goes to the person who wins priority, which they already have a huge advantage anyways. The small advantage for going second or not having priority is that you get to look at the board and figure out what side is going to be best for you or worse for your opponent. And I think that has to be significant, or the priority player is just, they're not running away with the game because there's so many things that happen in it. But you have to have a little bit of balance. And I think the balance of picking the table side for a tournament or competitive style game has to matter.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Adam, you and I both have a lot of thematic boards. What do you think about this?
So I tend to play more thematic boards than anything. Haven't competed in a tournament yet, whether it be online or in person. I just do I literally enjoy the hobby, and I love sharing it. You know what I mean? And so like for me, with these theme boards, like there was one that I went up against one of my friends, and we did like a Hell's Kitchen right down the center. It was like I want to say probably like a range 3 to 4 alleyway that we tried to make Hell's Kitchen with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It definitely was not fair to every affiliation, and it would not be something that I would suggest doing at a tournament, because the layout, again, it was very like you're reaching around things and it's hard for people to get around and stuff. And like I think I was using X-Men, so I did have Storm and I did have Beast, which was great. My opponent was using Defender, so he had Hawkeye, Hulk, Wong, and Doctor Strange. So a couple of them had some good abilities to get around, but the other ones did not. But yeah, so like tagging on with what Ryan was saying, tournaments, yeah, you do have to look at what is laid out and what is sort of, fair for everybody. It doesn't mean that it has to be symmetrical, but just sort of fair, and that everybody should be able to still get around to the board and be able to access the objectives when possible, right? Theme, though, playing for fun, it's all out the window. I go rule of cool, basically. Rule of cool. I have a Wakanda board where I have a forest like area of terrain thing where there's like 3 or 4 trees all clumped in together to make it look like a forest, and like, and they're definitely not outside of range 2. So, but it just adds to the feel of it being sort of like a sort of forest type setting, right? So, and like I said, that Hell's Kitchen alleyway, it was super fun to play. It made for some unique challenges in the game, and we just did it because of the theme, right? And with that whole idea that we had in our head when we were setting up the board. So it really is what you want to get out of the game, whether you want to play that sort of strict hardball to the rules, competitive style mindset, or fun, you know what I mean? And that's sort of where you'll determine how you set up your board. So so for me, yeah, theme definitely does impact how I set it up when I play, because that's more what I do right now. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of to what you're saying, and what I really love is Atomic Mass Games has made Marvel Crisis Protocol a game that is able to appeal to the more casual, like, hey, let's make a Hell's Kitchen, let's make Wakanda, and even if it doesn't really fit their suggested rule patterns and stuff for the terrain setup, you can still make it work well enough and have a fantastic game if you're not trying to play to those super advantages. Like my Wakanda board is like Ancient Temple. It has some wall ruin sections that are all together, and like you can peel them off and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't really fit the rules, but you can play it well enough that it fits the rules.
And it looks awesome. So that's that, right? So for me, it's all about the story and the narrative when it comes to that. It's well, they're stories, right? They're comics. That's what this is all based off, is like comics. And so I just like to sort of be immersed in that story when I'm playing, right? So
yeah. In Sploosh, what about you, man? Do you just see the numbers and like go Matrix on it?
I mean, I have to say yes, but I mean, when the game first came out, I remember seeing everyone showing off their cool like train model cities and all that. And I was always like, wow, I want to own that. That's so cool. Didn't you do a video with like don't do a gas station or something recently?
Not recently, but yes.
Yeah, I saw that in my feed. But yeah, like I don't even know how I would rule that. But I will say for the sort of spirit of fun, some things I've done is like before the game starts, just declare like, yeah, you can land on this because like I really like this piece on the board, and yeah, I'm not gonna get mad about like Hulk overhanging a bus. You know. And there is, I think, even a rule in there I saw randomly a while ago with you can declare some terrain not interactable, which is something I've done before, where it's like, it just really wouldn't be fun if you threw this massive building at me, because like kind of the whole point of this map we've put together is like the building being there. So like, let's just keep it there, or like things like that. And another, like even house rules about like putting things on roofs. So like, okay, just pretend like you can throw that and nothing's getting in its way or whatever. Things like that. I do think there's like little slightly house ruley things you can do to like make a theme map more fun and fair and not feels bad, because that's what we're shooting for. Oh, another one is like, sometimes standing on things can be weird, and it's like, well, like he's having a little trouble standing on that, but I believe that Spider-Man wouldn't fall off that house, you know? So like, let's put him up there. It's okay. Just little things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So early on, AMG, I think either at just the launch of the game or just before launch, gave us one of their articles or transmissions about how many terrain pieces of each size people should try to be using. With a year of gaming behind us, are there any changes you would like to make to this list or suggest someone else try? And as a reminder to us all, they recommend 2 to 4 pieces of size 1 terrain, 3 to 6 size 2, 3 to 6 size 3, 1 to 2 size 4, and 0 to 1 size 5. Anybody feel free to jump out if you have a strong opinion.
I think that it's a nice guideline in what it is, but that's all that it really is too. It is a guideline. I think for once we're able to have conventions again and bigger events, I think that's what folks will de facto go back to. Well, this is what they say, so this is what we're going to do. But if you're making a cool board and it's fun to play on, and you and your opponent are both like, yeah, this is great, then tear it up, man. Do what you got to do. Have fun, because it is a game. And a lot of the buildings that I have are 3D printed that we made at Coaxium. So it was like, well, I'm going to keep using them because they're cool, and I'm not going to not use them because they're too big. No, they look cool. And the Doctor Strange, when they've made the people who printed that thing is ginormous, but it looks amazing on the table. So play it, have fun with it.
Yep, absolutely. Adam, I have a feeling you like more large buildings, more size 5 on the table usually.
Well, I definitely in my city, I definitely do a large number of size 5. Usually there's like 2, 3 about that. But outside of my preferences of size 5, I do find that list was a little bit bare. You know what I mean? That they originally put out, at least for my sort of taste, and that's coming from a background of playing in other events and running other tournaments where I don't know if many of you guys have heard of the Middle Earth SPG game from Games Workshop. That's what got me into it, and when I went to events, like every board was like set up in a very thematic, you could tell, okay, this is, Moria. And like, so there, every board would be very themed as you're playing on. So like, for me, it just seemed to be kind of bare and a little bit harder to sort of get my head around, I guess you can say, completely get to and understand why there is a guideline for this rule set completely is beneficial. But again, I fall back to that theme aspect. You know what I mean? I like, if I want to play in a city, I want to make it look like a city, right? So now that's just my opinion. But yeah, no, I think that the whole guideline was a little bit barer for my likings personally. So
okay, so possibly on the lower end side.
Yeah, I would add a little bit more to it. Not necessarily doesn't have to be size 5, but like just a few more just sort of fill the board in that. So it just makes it look pretty. So pretty boards are nice.
Fair enough, and I tend to agree. Sploosh, what about you? Are there any things that you would lower or raise on that number count?
No, I'm pretty fine with it, but I do think maybe a casualty is, like I said, don't put things really in that like range 3 zone too much. I mean, and I'm not saying don't put it at the range 3 line, but if you think about it, you are leaving kind of a lot of board bare if you just picture that like range 3 perimeter, right? And I think if you stick to that, you'll find you can fit a lot in the middle of that. But I don't think you need to like treat it like it's some kind of code that you can't mess with, right? Because maybe one size 3 is bigger than a different size 3, I don't know, like a truck versus a fountain versus whatever, I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. So
yeah,
mostly
that same transmission they put out with those, recommendations, it also said don't put terrain within range 2 of all 4 edges, which I think is kind of, talking to the same thing like you're saying, Sploosh. It just kind of, it doesn't put so much stuff there, so it hinders deployment, which I think is a big deal. And now with Magneto able to, generate all the power before anybody moves, it kind of re-solidifies the idea that you don't want it to be in the way when you're just getting going.
Yeah, no, I like that. You don't need it necessarily up to the edges of the table, but a little bit back there, either to help the Magneto player, let Valkyrie go first and let her throw a size 2 into that light pole or something and generate 3 power for the team is kind of handy, but also just it creates interesting decisions from the beginning of the game.
I do agree with that 100%. Like make that option somewhere on the board at least,
Yeah. The one thing that the only change really I would like to see is a lot of those minimums moved up by 1. Not necessarily the size 5. I think if you're not playing with a size 5, that's okay. If you want to play with multiple size 5s, just set it up in a way that it still works well. But I would really like to see the minimum recommended of size 4s be a 2. maybe just because there's so many times when there's only that one size 4 piece of terrain, and if it just doesn't make sense for your one character that can interact with that size 4 not be able to, kind of makes they're not living up to their full potential. They're not living up to that full 5 or even 6 threat, which is a little bit of a feel bad. So either when you're placing that size 4, place it in a part of the board where it's likely to be able to be used either as cover or as a very large thrown incoming missile kind of a thing. But I don't know. That could just be me.
I kind of agree with that. Like I mentioned, have 2 in the corner, 1 in the middle as a choice.
Mhm.
I would be nervous to see 3, unless they're
Yeah.
like kind of on the outskirts. I mean, if someone throws a size 4 at you, it's gonna hurt like hell. I mean, a lot of characters may just daze instantly. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
take like
No.
1 cube damage in a building to your face and you're done sometimes, so.
Yeah, so maybe it's not even trying to move the minimum up to 2 as it is make sure that the size 4 is relevant. And if you don't have a piece that you would usually consider size 4, maybe upgrade one of your size 3 pieces to a 4.
Right.
I guess that's a good segue though into the next question, size 4 terrain wise. I think with what you're saying, I would be okay with 3 size 4 terrain pieces, but it's to you would sort of want to offset them instead of being, and I think Sploosh was talking about this earlier, you wouldn't want them in that sort of, and even Ryan touched on it, that XY axis. Like you keep them more towards the outside. Your size 5 buildings, keep them towards the outside of the building, right? Or the board. And that's going to be where hopefully they don't have as much of an impact on the game, and you don't just take a garbage truck to the face and have one of your characters dazed, and then your second character is dazed because Angela then rolls really hot on one of her strikes, you know what I mean, after throwing the garbage truck into your face. Like if you sort of put it out to the outside, where you have to sort of commit to that, you know what I mean, and like it's, I don't know, you push it around a little bit so it's not all right there and in a position where it's ideal position for it being thrown, you know what I mean? So location is everything, I guess. So
cool. So the main reason I ended up kind of wanting to have this discussion and why I kind of hate that it's a little bit later is because Magneto has entered the game and terrain placement is even more important than it used to be with the characters like Thor and Hulk and Ebony Maw, even though Maw probably doesn't see that much
Who plays
play.
him?
Is he one of the viewers I have we had a great discussion about terrain placement and trying to make sure that it's not being set up advantageously, and he goes to the point saying that he enjoys playing Asgard, and knowing that he's bringing Thor, he doesn't want to place a size 4 terrain piece towards the middle of the board. And so do you guys as a whole, would you be okay trying to put at least if you're only playing with one size 4, putting that somewhere where it's going to at least be relevant in the game? Or is that something that people should try to stay away from?
I think it has to be relevant, but because that character like Thor has an extra threat value cost because he can throw a size 4. But, having it right in the center of the table probably isn't the best idea. Like we were talking about earlier, having it maybe in one of the, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, where they can still get it and they can still throw it, but it's not going to be, oh, look, Thor's going to move up twice, and then the first action, second turn, he's throwing the building, he's hitting you, he's throwing you this way, then he's throwing the other character that way, because that's just not a fun game experience when you're getting pounded like that. Now, granted, when you're doing that to somebody, it's a great time, but when you're on the receiving end, it's never as much fun. But again, also, I mean, that's what Thor can do, and so you have to know how to avoid some of those things. You can position your characters behind a light post that's a size 1, and they have to do something about that size 1 before they can throw the building at you. So, I mean, things like that I think as we all play more games and we figure things like that out, and just little tricks, it's like, If I stand just like this, they can't throw that at me. And that makes a significant difference in how you're playing the game and how you're positioning. Because it can't always be about, I'm just going to go straight forward and bash people in the face, unless you're playing Black Order. And that's a different thing. But, using the terrain for your benefit to get cover, to get to where there's no direct line that you're going to get, that size 4 building thrown at you, or now with the tactic card that's coming with She-Hulk and Hulk that can throw a size 5 at you, you have to position yourself to where there's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'd like to
Can we all just take a
stab.
moment of silence for the first character that takes a size 5 building without a brace
my
for
God.
impact handy?
Agents
Oh.
of Smash, isn't it?
Yes, Agents of Smash.
Oh my gosh. But that's 11 points, or sorry, 12 points being
12
sunk
points.
into that, right? Like that, like
Yeah.
you're making a huge commitment to use that tactics
Well,
card. I want to do it, don't get me wrong, but like 12 points, that's
You got the 2 Hulks and Taskmaster, and you're fine. That's all you need.
You've got a team. I'd like to take a stab at this though. So like one of the reasons we play this game is this idea that we get to make interesting choices. I know that's one of the reasons I enjoy it, is when you're staring at your character and you're going, well, I could do this, or I could do this, and I have this. So I think you want to well, I'll just say when I play casually, a lot of times I kind of know what objectives I'm going to play before I like maybe I'll do the board first, but then I'll talk it out. Like, what do you want to play? What haven't you played recently? Like, what threat value have you kind of wanted to play? Maybe, right? So, I don't know. Maybe if then that's decided, and I'm the guy bringing Magneto. And it's Gamma. We've decided to play Gamma shelters or something, and the 4 is like right on the Gamma or whatever. Maybe make it a choice. Like put it like. You could still put it middle, but maybe like range 2 away, or even range 3 away from the middle, so that like if the Thor wants to throw it, he's got to like commit to like actually not being within range 1 maybe of that middle shelter, but he's gonna get you at the big truck or whatever, like or you put like the big size 4 on either one side of the home Gammas, for example, and then you let your opponent decide which side of the board they want to be on. So they maybe have to make a choice, like, am I in danger in my home point, or if I'm being aggressive on their point? So like there's this idea of choice and decision making, even when they decide the side of the board or whatever. And then you don't have to feel guilty because you let them choose. Like you could be on that side or this side. Which one do you want? And for you as the player playing the character that throws size 4, you're making choices like, okay, maybe I don't usually want to be this aggressive, but like there's this big size 4 on their side of the board. Let's go get it. So that's what it really comes down to, like making interesting choices. And I think you can create those on the board with a little bit of forethought,
Yeah.
And that's some examples I have.
Yeah, I like being able to a size 4 or something like that that's going to make an impact on the game by not necessarily having it straight down the middle of either E or C, but having it a little bit offset. That way it can't become if you guys actually go so far as to rotate the map and everything else. But it also then makes decisions happen as early as objective decision making. Because if you have the board set up, you guys each look at it, and maybe your opponent wins priority, and they're like, there's that size 4. I'm going to pick secures to make sure that Thor's not going to get close to that size 4. It's not going to be relevant next to one of the secure objectives, kind of a thing.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so my last question for you guys. Well, Adam, did you get to pitch in on that? Do you have any thoughts?
I sort of touched on it a little bit, but like I agree with what everybody else is saying. Like like you don't need to have your size 4 dead center as long as it's still accessible. But you could have whoever your character that is throwing it commit to that, that terrain piece if they're truly wanting to throw it. That way it's not so feel bad when it's dead center and you just chuck it and daze somebody, right? So it's all about placement and making those decisions beforehand. I completely would be okay with bringing a character, even knowing that I'm going to throw stuff at my opponent, but I wouldn't set it up where I'm getting the advantage to do it. You know what I mean? I would still set it off to the side and go from that point and go forward. So I don't know, if Magneto is there, I would have to commit to one side of the board with Magneto and where that train piece was if I want to throw it, right? Is it really worth it? Or is it worth it getting them into the mix of everybody else? Like I played a match against one of my opponents that's coming out, I guess it would be, Wednesday. And literally we had one size 4 or 2 size 4 pieces on the board. And I basically set up everybody middle to my right on the board. So that way I had no big terrain near me because he had Thor on his side. And he could have, if I went to the other side, he could have just thrown it at me, because it was like 2 pieces were on the opposite board half. So it was just that commitment and strategy in my head. I'm like, I completely just avoid the situation of making that dodge roll and just stay off to the right-hand side. So it's just placement.
I like that. It doesn't need to be in the center of the board, but it doesn't also need to be at the edge of the board where it's just going to be irrelevant for most of the game. So
that's right. Well, and as people have said, like Ryan and everybody else, like these characters have these abilities and you want them to be able to use these abilities. You want them to be able to throw the stuff that they're meant to throw, right? Not that it has to be giving you an advantage over your opponents, but you still want to see it. So,
yep. And I'll also say if probably around average of 16 to 18 terrain pieces on a board is probably about the right number in my opinion. And you can absolutely, I've been recently throwing little like traffic cones and other things that we don't even count as size anything. They're just there to kind of spice the board up, make it look prettier. And if they are in the way, we just scoot them out of the way when we need a character to be placed there. But with that at the same time, if Magneto has a giant circle around him at the end of the game, that's just kind of normal.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question for you guys, and just a couple of tips if you have them. What is a good way to offset just kind of this internal thing when there isn't an impartial third party? Because ideally, that would be the easiest way to just be able to say, oh, here's the perfect board we're going to play, and somebody else completely random set it up. What's a general good way or a tip for somebody who's struggling to set up a board easily?
One way that one of the shops did it out here when we had a tournament is they were a bunch of 40K players that were playing Marvel Crisis Protocol now. So they wanted to take turns setting up the terrain. I put one piece, you put one piece before you pick sides, anything like that, which I think is a fine just to make everybody a little less worried about it. But it just took too long for me. I want to play the game. I don't want to stand here and, if I get to the shop first, I'm going to build a table real fast. And when my buddy shows up, I'm like, move anything you want. I'm rolling for priority because I want to play. I want to use that time to play, not place terrain. Another guy has printed the subway system up and it's a beautiful terrain. It's like, it just sets up. We don't touch it. We just play with it because it just looks so cool. You're not going to, no, I want the subway train scooted up, 3 more inches. So it's not, it just looks cool. Play on the board and enjoy it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I completely I'll have a board set up sometimes. And I literally will ask my opponent, are you okay with this? What do you want to move? You know what I mean? And if we find something is intrusive to our fun and to the game, we'll just rearrange it. So like say we do find something that will give somebody an advantage during an objective or whatever, we'll just move it so it's a little bit fair. And like it's all of that conversation back and forth as you're playing. Are you okay with a terrain like this? Yeah, okay, cool, let's go. Right? And so that's how we do it. So that way we both have a say and we can freely move things as needed. So
yep, having that social contract in place is a great way for it. Sploosh, any last thoughts on an impartial, easy board setup other than play TTS?
I mean, I do love the mat with the marked objective token thing. I mean, that's just the quality of life right there. I will say when I'm playing for fun, I set it up first for looks, and then I do like a quick stare to go, okay, did I like break something? And then I'll move things around a little bit because I like the idea of it feeling authentic, and then, maybe it's like too neat. And I'm like, well, there was a lot of combat recently. These police cars are, they got shoved a little bit or something. I'll just kind of move it off what like kind of looks correct to just be more fair or whatever. But that's about it. have a cool mat and then make it look cool and then fix it a little bit. And you guys kind of touched on it. You ask your opponent, like, is this cool with you? And finish it up. And 100% too, if something ends up kind of not right, just fix it on the spot. Like both people are going to be happy with that.
But,
yeah.
And I think all of that goes to who and what you're playing. When you're showing someone how to play and it's their third or fourth game, okay, if you're playing Thor or Modok against them, you're not being a very nice guy right now. They're great to play, but if somebody's learning or if somebody's like, hey, I want to try out this list, that I think is going to work, then ask them, okay, well, what do you want to try it out against? And let me play that. And, I think most of us have all the models just because, well, they're cool. So, try if you're a lot of the games that, you play, well, I want to try my syndicate list against this on this specific scenario. So let's set this up to the worst possible way that I could have it against me to see how I overcome that. And it's never going to be that bad when we're really playing it, but to try to see how bad it could be so that I have to work around it. It isn't a bad idea, but I tend to look at it a little more competitively than like Sploosh does, I think, which is fine. But I'm going to show a good friend how to play, and his wife want to come out and play tomorrow night. We're going to have like 3 cars, a daily bugle, and a couple of light posts because it's just learning how to play the game right now. You're going to get to everything else later, and you don't want to have a negative play experience for somebody who's just now learning how to play. And if you're doing that, then you're just not a good. I mean, come on, teach people how to play, let them have fun,
100%.
or give them Thor and let them throw the size 4 building at you, and you just take it like a champ for that game because that's great for them. That's going to get them to want to play more because that's what we should all be doing when we're not playing against somebody we already know. When we want to kick them in the teeth, is okay. Let's have fun and let's get you to have more fun than me while you're learning. Yeah. And I don't like losing any games. I beat my 16-year-old son at Mario Kart relentlessly, and I'm not going to let him win. It's just the way it is. But when he beats me, he loves it, and he should love it that 1 out of 100 times.
Nice.
But when you're learning, you got to play differently against that person who's learning how to play. And I think again that goes like the social contract, like you were saying. Hey, are we playing just for some fun here, or are we testing out lists for the season that's starting on TTS? What are we doing so that you're going into it with the same want as your opponent? Well, I just want to play Avengers because I haven't played them well. Okay, cool. What do you and then you bring out something else that's fun. You don't bring out what you think is your best list necessarily. Just have fun with it still, even if you're trying to get ready for something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I really like that, adhering to just kind of a talk about it beforehand. What kind of a game are we expecting? Are we looking for a more casual game? Then we can just kind of throw a board out there and make some slight adjustments. And maybe if you are at an event or you're looking for a perfectly better balanced table, that Warhammer or X-Wing style of you place a terrain piece, I'll place a terrain piece, and going back and forth to kind of fill out the board within AMG's typical guidelines is a great way to do it. All right, guys. Well, that is all I have for you. Do any of you have any final thoughts on a terrain Marvel Crisis Protocol world post Magneto?
Take brace for impact. Well, for like 3 months, everybody was like, "Oh, it's not that good. You don't need it. You don't need it anymore. You can just take it." And then it's like, "Oh, look, Magneto.
Magneto's
I don't
here,
have brace.
and you need it.
I don't have brace." And oh, look, 3 of my characters got dazed in his activation, and he has 4 power left over. Well, take brace for impact. Yeah. You got to brace the size 3 or 4 when it gets thrown at you. Just the way it is.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. You need brace nowadays when you even suspect that you're going up against Magneto. He's changed the meta in that sense, right? So
right.
Yep, there are definitely meta calls like that. When the Web Warriors all finally came out, Venom definitely took an uptick in popularity since he kind of negates that spider sense. And
Venom is fantastic, period. So
yeah.
When Venom got used, it was a good time.
Now we see characters like Magneto, and then coming out in January, for those who don't already have them, we have Angela, who's going to bring Thor, and so we'll have even more size 4 throwing monsters hitting the board. So Brace is definitely on the upswing right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah, Angela is just ridiculous. Like turn 1, eat a size 4 is coming.
Yeah.
I've done it. It's fun.
I'm pretty sure I have a battle report somewhere where my opponent days 2 of my characters with Angela in round 1. So run up the board, throw a building, and had a hot dice roll with her. What is it? Is it the Sword of Stars or something like that? What's the range?
Her 6 dice strike.
Yeah. She had her like range 4 like shot and like rolled nothing but hits and crits, and it was just ridiculous. Dazed, it was Punisher and Daredevil, I think it was, in round 1. It was stupid. So
that is popping off, definitely.
Completely.
Yeah.
But that's dice, right? That's like you can spike with the Betstone at times, right? So
absolutely. All right, so thank you all for joining me. Going around the horn here, Adam, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube for Blackfire Productions. That's where I do all the content that I do for Marvel Crisis Protocol, as well as some other hobbies that I'm into. So,
absolutely. Ryan, what about you?
So I'm fortunate enough to put up some articles on the game and the list that I like to play on coaxiumgaming.com. I'm lucky enough to be on Across the Bifrost Nexus. That's what it's called, not Nexium. That's a medicine. Nexus as well. So, and it's just my thoughts and ideas. I don't necessarily pretend that they're right, but they're mine, so I like them.
Absolutely. And Sploosh, where can people find more of you if they want it?
Well, I have a podcast called the Danger Room Podcast. I have co-host Dizzard, who's a dude online that's pretty cool, and Jacob, who does Xavier Protocol's blog. So yeah, come check us out. We also have a Discord and a Facebook page. You can reach out and, play with us, talk with us, whatever you want to do. It's fun. And we are on that Bifrost thing as well, which is really awesome. So if you can find that Bifrost, website page, it'll show lots of different content for this game, not just Ryan and I's, but a bunch of other people. It's really cool.
I was about to say, I believe Adam and I are both on there. And this is the first time talking about Across the Bifrost Nexus. Across the Bifrost, already a great podcast with Pat and Sung Soo that have been putting out content for well over a year for this game. Have kind of gathered all sorts of different content creators and put us all on one site. So if you were just looking for more Marvel Crisis Protocol, highly recommend just Googling Across the Bifrost Nexus, and you will find more than enough to keep you busy for the next year.
Basically everything. So,
yeah.
All right.
Resource. Great idea.
And with that, thank you all for listening/watching. If you have any questions, I have a couple of ways to contact me down in the description of the video. And until next time, keep on gaming.